Welcome back to Pod by the Bay. I am Seth Varnadore, joined by Robert Steeg and Collin Sherwin this week. If you hear somebody yell, that's Collin just sweating out a bet here on the side. We are back to discuss some USF football, a little bit of basketball. But I think the big news from the week so far is after a dominant, looks like Collin cashed, after a dominant.
First miss, baby. We win. No overtime. Hit that under.
So last week, since last week, USF played on national television on Thursday against UTSA, a team that the prior week soundly beat Tulane, and they just pretty much dominated them almost literally from the opening whistle of the game. It seems like Golish likes to try to run it up on national TV, which is, and we'll talk about kind of the result of that. It's probably a pretty good idea, right?
I would agree to do that.
I think it looked like a good idea considering we came out 24th in the poll, the only poll that matters.
Yes.
I think the dunk on people, probably a dual effect there. I think probably a little bit of it was, let's do this for the committee, but also like the drive-by he took on Jeff Treller after the game, about resources. I thought I read Treller's comments in full. And I watched them too, and I didn't think there was anything out of line there. I mean, Trey was trying to get resources for a program that has been historically underfunded, and just making the comparison to what USF, Memphis, and a little bit of Tulane have invested. I don't think that's necessarily out of bounds, but clearly something set off Golish there, and I don't know if it was something behind the scenes that went with it as well. But yeah, I think it served two purposes, and especially when at one point, the plays in the first quarter were 28-0 in favor of UTSA, but the Bulls led 14-0, which is one of the wildest stats I've ever seen to start a college football game. That's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like that's the new narrative this year for USF success is, they spend more than everybody. That's simply it. So I'm sure I'm sure that gets him a little bit because it kind of minimizes the contribution of the staff totally, just in terms of making, and you're seeing it not just from UTSA, but you're starting to see it. I think even John Summerall was talking about it today, or I saw a quote from him today about investment, and he's talking about, Memphis and USF, we're trying to match there in terms of investment, and people are saying he's going to try to use the leverage. I mean, this is Tulane fans hoping he stays. Use leverage of open jobs to try to get more investment at Tulane. I think he's probably leaving, but even he is kind of talking about this extra level investment. So it certainly seems that Golish has probably been hearing that all year. Well, yeah, USF's better this year. That's just because they're spending more than everybody, and it kind of minimizes what they've done and kind of the development of players as well. So, it definitely seemed like that was the way to go, as you mentioned. After pummeling UTSA on national TV and being kind of the only game on at the time, USF is ranked 24th in the latest playoff rankings. And that would put them, if the season ended today, they would be the 12 seed in the playoffs. Pretty good stuff.
Love to see it.
You love to see it. I do love the fact. Can't complain enough. I love the fact that I don't see a path for James Madison, even if they went out. I mean, they're just not going to play anybody. That's one of the worst schedules in the country. I haven't exactly looked. It's not like Liberty was that Liberty team 2 years ago who was literally the dead last schedule in the country and still ended up,
they almost had to. The AAC just beat each other up pretty good. It doesn't seem like that'll be kind of how it plays out this year.
Not with a 3-point loss on the road to a good Memphis team, and then a loss to an ACC Miami team that was, September Miami, not November Miami. So,
very different.
So
very different.
Two very, very different football teams. I do think the path is there, and so this will be the game where USF will be the closest to not being a favorite of the last three. We are 180 minutes, and I try not to think about this because. But we are 180 minutes from South Florida football playing for the American Conference Championship. And if they win the American Conference Championship, they will play in the college football playoff. And I am really trying to not think about this. try and just go 1-0 this week, fans. Like, just focus, be the ball. But the extrapolation, it is natural to have that extrapolation out, especially when your last two games are UAB and Rice. Yeah, man, like, we're going to be favored. We're the favorite to make the playoff. I mean, that's effing terrifying to say out loud. Oh, and by the way, you're going to host the championship game most likely, because the first tiebreaker, if you play Tulane, is the ranking, and the ranking there. There's two different rankings. There's the first one is if you were the higher ranked college football playoff team, you are the host, and if you don't play your common opponent or your uncommon opponent, and then if both teams are not ranked, then there is a 5-computer system where they take the best of the average of those 5 computers. But guess what? If we stay ranked, that's not going to be an issue. Yeah. So yeah, like, you're looking at 180 minutes to hosting the American Conference Championship game, where you will be 60 minutes from the freaking college football playoff.
So
I can't talk about this.
Unfortunately, I got a question I'm going to ask you here. We talked about a little bit when we recorded the Ponderosa last night. I asked Nathan and Steeg about it, but I'd like to get your perspective. Somebody's been following the program for a long time. Where is this Navy game right now in terms of importance? Where does this rank in USF history? How high is it?
Let's see. 2017 UCF, probably the biggest one ever.
That's what Nathan had number 1, I believe.
I got that number 1. And I was standing next to Nathan as Mike Hughes ran by us and ran back to the kickoff, and that will haunt my dreams. Outside of that, Voodoo 5. 2005 UConn game we should have won. Started a slide for that season, but there was a very, very good chance going into that game that USF was going to be able to play for the biggest championship in their first season in the league. It wasn't at the time because it certainly didn't feel like it, but it ended up being that way. 2016 Temple, the Nick Sharga game. And outside of that, like, I'm struggling to find anything that's close. Because, any other game, there's never really been a lot of stakes in, even like 2017 when we lost to Houston at home in a game, the 4th and 24 that we gave up to Houston. That game didn't really have the stakes either because we had the insurance policy. Because even if we lost that game, we were still going to play UCF for the de facto championship. So, if we had, and ironically on the other side here, if we had beaten Memphis, we could lose to Navy and we'd still probably be okay. So yeah, I think this is like right there. This is, in thinking about it now, I think it's a top 3. This is a top 3. Oh,
which is
I can't believe I'm scared. I'm going up there. It's going to be cold. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm flying up, and I'm already.
And then the next part of my question is basically, does every single game after that become more important?
No, because then it's the talent gap against the last 2 is so wide. You win it. I mean, it's win or choke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the last game where you're against a competitive opponent in what has been a house of horrors for opponents on the road. Mm-hmm. Their record at home against American Conference teams is pretty phenomenal. So at the last 2, do you worry about the last 2? Of course, you worry about everything at this point. But I think this is the big one because if you lose one of the last 2, it's just, there's no other way to put it but a choke, barring some sort of cataclysmic injury problem, the last 2 weeks of the season here.
Yeah. And then basically after that, every subsequent win, because my thought was basically every subsequent win from here out creates the next game is maybe not these 2, but especially conference championship game. Every subsequent win is the biggest game in program history. The next game.
The conference championship.
Championship. If they go to the conference championship game, That's a win.
Yeah,
That's the biggest game in program history. If they win that first round playoff game, is that not now the biggest game in conference championship history?
Conference championship game would be the biggest game in program history. That would
that
would surpass. Yeah,
because you're in a chance to win the national championship.
Yeah, but at that point, it's kind of gravy at that point, you know? Because
look, man,
if we're going to be completely if we're just going to call a spade, I don't think. I mean, the current college football projections have it USF versus Georgia and Athens. That's a gravy win to me. That is if you win it, phenomenal. Like you are in the echelon of things, but just kind of being there is cool enough in and of itself, right? And I think Collin will always disagree with me in these types of things, but and this is me also speaking from kind of a more casual fan perspective. I've talked with a lot of my friends who are not as in tune to college football like the rest of us are. Even just getting there is a big deal at this point. Like that is a massive, monumental achievement in the world of college football, especially for a school like USF, who 3 years ago was by far, and with very little exaggeration, one of the worst college football teams in the world. We were awful. And 3 years later, are now in the conversation of, going to Athens to play the University of Georgia in the first round of the college football playoffs.
So I'm going to push back here just a little bit because I intend to. So the Stars have never been this well aligned at this point in the season. That UCF team on the road was a very, very, very good football team. You're a double-digit favorite against Navy. It's 10.5 right now. I'm going to pull up, if you give me 1 second here, the projecteds. I'll pull up some projecteds here for UAB. I've got UAB as a 17-point dog, 16.5 to 17.5 point dog. And then Rice. Yeah. And I have Rice as a 23.5 to 25.5 point dog. Those are rough numbers, but that's about where I'd have it. This is for all the wax. Like, this is, you know what I mean? And then when you get the home game, you're going to be favored over. I don't care if it's Tulane or Memphis. You're favored. Like, by, I guess against Tulane, you'll be about 3 to 4. And then against Memphis, you would be, despite having lost to them, I think you'd be, especially if Lewis is hurt, it might be 7. But you're probably 4.5 to 6 favored. And if Lewis can't go, then that number goes up even higher. In fact, 4+ against Tulane. I'd make it 4.5, 5. So it's not fair. It's not right. College football is weird. The ball is oblong. Things bounce strangely. But the thing I have loved about this team all year is their consistency and their next play. They really do shake things off. Even when things go bad, they really do shake things off as well as anyone. And they play to play probably better than any USF team I've ever seen. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. They just go out and they continue to execute on both sides of the ball. And so having the stars aligned and that kind of veteran presence and mentality, man, if they drop one, it's just going to hurt at this point. That's all there is to it. I
guess that's kind of maybe, I don't know, importance is high, but I think the other way to frame it is most devastating to lose. This is right up there with the UCF 2017, right? Like this is kind of. So
the next loss until you have a conference. Now, if you're going to UGA or Indiana or
Yeah. That's
wherever the hell you're going. Ellis.
What's interesting
Texas
about I don't want to get too far ahead, but there's a lot of movement still at the top there.
Sure.
There's a lot that's going to shake out the next. Because we've had some maybe overzealous people in the Discord start talking about hotel rooms, buddy. There's a lot going on these next 3 weeks. It could totally change by next Monday. So
especially against the schedules that are out there. Look, if whatever the 5 seed is, we have quorum here. We're 50% of Bay Area Examiner LLC in this room. I think we can tell everybody. We can tell everybody what is the plan that we are going to have for a college football playoff game. Well, all of us are going, and we're all going to be. All of us are going. All of us co-owners, and we're all going to be really, really drunk. Okay, like. This is going to be the party of the millennium. I don't care if we play on the surface of the moon. Okay. I'm getting there on Tuesday. I'm going to enjoy the ride. I do not care what the score is. This is the last time that we had a game where I did not care what the score is, but I was so happy to be there was the first bowl game in 05. And boy, it was a good thing I didn't care what the score is because we did not score. Mario Williams kicked our ass and North Carolina State beat us in the first Meineke Car Care Bowl. And that was the last time that I went to a game with absolutely no expectations, or a postseason game with absolutely no expectations, I should say. And we're right back in that same mode again. Like, I don't care. Getting that far, how they'll perform, I think they'll outperform in that game because the system that has been put in place with this team and the ability to show consistency as even against better and higher quality opponents, I think they'll play really well. But even if they lose, I don't care. Just athletic. Get there. They're athletic as hell.
I think they'll match up just athleticism wise, which is where like a lot of teams get blown out in these games.
Look, man, Georgia. If it's Georgia, I ain't hating it. They're gettable. Like it would take a lot. It would take a lot. But of the teams in that neighborhood right now, I don't want to play Texas A&M. I don't want to play Indiana. I want Georgia. Yeah. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Be Navy first.
So let's talk about this Navy game that is very important. And this is a Navy team. We talked about it really in depth on the Ponderosa last night. Really in depth with the stats. We had Mike James of the Mid Report come on and do a really good job.
Did we mention that his daughter is a USF student?
Yeah, she was a student for a little bit.
Yeah.
So he's a fan. He said he's going to give us a shout on the radio broadcast. He's a color commentator for their radio team. So I don't think he really is, but that's I try to press it on him at the end there. So we'll see if it sticks. This is an interesting game. So Horvath is hurt. Do you think? And he said it doesn't. And this is what I'd heard earlier in the week. In other places, but it's kind of the same. He kind of just reiterated it that it's an upper body injury, but it's not a long-term injury. Do you think it's we're going to hold him out for Notre Dame and play him for, I guess the question is, right, now that I'm thinking about it, we talked to, right, Monken, the Army head coach, and he talked about the importance of the Army-Navy game.
Mm-hmm. Is
it more important for them? Like I was going to say, are they saving him for conference play? But are they trying to make sure he's healthy for that last game of the year?
Well, if I was them, I mean, you still have a path to the conference championship, so I think you got to play him.
Right. So, do you think they were holding him against Notre Dame for that reason?
Yes. I don't know if you saw what Narduzzi said at Pitt this week, but Narduzzi basically went, "I don't care."
Yes, I did. See that. I was hoping that was a. Lou Holtz sandbagging like to the extreme, but it didn't sound great.
No, look, it doesn't make fans happy. It doesn't, but like I think it's in a way it's kind of honest, which is, look, I got a really good freshman quarterback, and I don't really care about this week. I'm trying to win a conference
without beating Notre Dame. So
like if you've got a conference championship availability, you play for the conference championship. And so I think if I'm Navy, I play Horvath now. And if I'm USF and I know he's got an upper body injury, maybe I take one pitch, when he pitches and just follow through and finish it anyway, and make him know that you're there physically. And even if you give up a little bit of a gap run on an option outside to, maybe you just let him feel it. But I would be very physical with him where I could, knowing that where that is.
Mike said that it was they've said it's more of a pain tolerance issue.
Okay, make him hurt.
But his expectation is that it may affect the passing game more than the rushing game. So I don't know. I'm guessing must be a shoulder, possibly.
And a one-dimensional Navy can't beat USF.
Yeah. So looking at the numbers, obviously the rushing offense is really good. The passing offense is with these kind of academy offenses that aren't bad. The passing offenses always are really good because they're really explosive and it comes off the run stuff. So when they can run the football, the passing offense is really good. This is a really bad Navy defense, like really bad. One of the worst in the country against the pass in particular. So this feels like the game from a couple years ago where USF goes down or goes up to Navy. I think they scored 40-something points in that game. I'll pull it up to get the exact score, but it feels like one of those kind of games. On Navy's better. It was 44-30 was the final in that game. I think Navy's offense is better than they were then, but I think USF is obviously a lot better than they were a couple of years ago. But it feels like that kind of game where offensively it looks like Navy just can't keep up with USF skill guys. That's kind of my thought. Is that kind of what you're thinking as well?
Yeah, if I'm USF here and I'm looking at Navy right now, 31 offense, 97 defense in SP plus. And I think that because of the game control, that's probably even a little strong for the offense, but that defense doesn't stay on the field very much. So being 97, I think is much more about clock control than anything else. And USF being 30 in SP plus, 16th in the offense, 16th offensively. I've said this multiple times this season, and I don't think it'll matter on Saturday nearly as much, but like there may be some possessions, if Navy does, patent one of their famous 7-8 minute drives and gets down there and scores 3 or 7. I think USF is going to almost have a tough time holding back and not scoring as quickly. You know what I mean? Like there are possibilities here where their Navy just all out blitzes if they score an opening touchdown, let's say. Do they just send the house and try and force USF into some kind of mistake? And if that mistake doesn't get made, we put our defense right back on the field.
Yeah. That's what Mike kind of said, that this is not like a normal academy defense where they'll kind of sit back and hope you make a mistake, that they're really aggressive. So
they're going after it.
It could be that. So take the over on extra point injuries for this game. If you see anybody that offers that prop, take the over on that.
Comments.
So yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the advanced metric places have this as a tighter game. I know Parker Stats of War on Twitter and CFB Graphs, his numbers put it at like a 4-point game. A couple other places have it at 10. The line is currently 10.5, I believe.
It is 10.5.
Let's make some picks here. Nathan is not here tonight. He's on dad duty, dominating. He likes USF 10.5. Is what and I think he feels like it could be a big USF win. Collin, does the half point, does that scare you at all?
Look, would I bet at 10.5? I would prefer not to, but if gun to my head, I'd probably just lay the extra. If I would, as a bettor, as a neutral looking at this game, the first thing I would see is like if I could get on the right side, and there is a 10 out there at a couple of shops right now, but it's mostly 10.5s. Here's the thing, like this terrifies me to say on non-broadcast television, but I think USF wins by 20 plus. I think we are very good at assignment defense. This team has seen enough triple. They're not going to be intimidated by it. The athleticism difference is really huge. And USF's ability to find spaces on bad defenses is probably what they do better than anything. I would not be stunned if USF scores basically every time they touch the ball while the game is contested. I think this game gets, despite the limited possessions, I don't see a lot of pass where USF doesn't get to 40 here. And it's terrifying me to say that out loud. But like if I was looking at this as a better and as a neutral, first of all, a 64.5 total in a Navy game.
That was going to be my question to you. Does
Crazy.
that seem high?
It does for Navy, but I don't think it does because USF has scored with such efficiency, especially early on. And
So a couple numbers for you. Went
Okay.
back and looked at this. First of all, USF's team total in this game on DraftKings is 37.5. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? You think this is going to be an over there, right?
It's not my favorite bet on the board. I'd rather lay the 10.5, but it's an over.
So I went and looked at USF's. I just wanted to double check the number here. So I went and looked at USF's kind of split stats. And one thing at the beginning of the year we were talking about a ton is once you get through those first 3 games, the stats are really going to – it didn't look great through the first 3, the stats did. But once you get through that, everything's going to really improve. So I went and looked at – do you know what USF is scoring against non-Power 5 teams this year?
Over 50 per.
It's 47.5 points a game.
Close.
Yeah. So, in October, they averaged 49 points a game and obviously have the 55 here in the one game in November. So, that offense is humming. I'm probably going to pick USF minus the 10.5 as well. To me, it feels like that other game. The half point freaks me out a little bit, but it just feels like one of those games where I don't think Navy's going to be able to guard USF. So if you can't do that, then USF can spread you out and throw it and get really explosive on you.
When USF goes to some sort of triangle read, where they run let's put Alvin Isaac, who I think is probably a tougher matchup for Navy just because of his speed. So Brown, mesh point to Alvin Isaac. He's got somebody like Singleton on a go. And he's got 2 slants backside, and he can pull it and run it himself. Navy can't defend that. They just don't have the athletes. You know what I mean? If Byram makes the right read against that kind of speed, athleticism, and also the ability to win down the field, because they're going to be able to win down the field against a Navy defense, especially in the secondary that has been pretty not great. You only got to hit. If you do it on 3 downs, you only got to hit 1. And I don't see. I just think USF scores basically every time they touch the ball here. I am more in terms of a cover. Let's assume the UAB game is 17.5. I'd be much more worried about covering against UAB. I think we win, but I'd be worried about a cover there much more than I am worried about a cover this week. And again, I'm saying this out loud, and it fills my soul with pain to verbalize what I actually believe, because I really think we're going to murder them this week.
Steeg, where are you at on this game?
We're still good with prop bets, right?
Sure.
What do you got?
Oh, perfect. That USF over 37.5 is
it's calling to you.
Oh my God. I get it. Navy pace of play and everything like that. You might not be able to score on every single possession kind of thing. I think that's probably what they're selling it there. I double checked against Rice running and basically the equivalent of a shotgun triple option. So again, slower pace of play and everything like that. Still got 9 possessions against Navy. I would think that, again, I checked and I looked. Again, a lot of short possessions. Again, something that I think USF might be very good at is getting short possessions to be able to, maybe score points. I think USF can get 9 possessions, and much to, Collin disagrees with me a lot, but I agree with Collin a lot. I think USF can score on a lot of their possessions. And I think if you even get close to giving USF 9 possessions against Navy, I'm willing to bet that USF is going to score at least 5 of them, potentially even 6 of them. So yeah, give me USF team total points over 37.5, according to our friends at Hard Rock.
Let me also throw in a little that I think this team is very smart, very well coached. And this is a game where complementary football could be a thing. And the complementary football might be Todd Orlando just sends the damn house a couple of times. And you know what and so, okay, so Navy is starting one of their patented 10-minute drives. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put 8, maybe 9 in the box. And we're going to give you outside on man. We're going to give you man on the outside. You hit it. But otherwise, we're coming.
Yep.
And you know we're coming, and we're going to line it up in the box. And maybe we put a single safety high, and sometimes we'll send him, and sometimes we'll just have him as the single high. But I just feel like you're just going to absolutely stack the box, give them man on the outside, and say, beat us over the top. You know, outside release, you hit it. But that's okay, because if you hit it, we'll get the ball back and we'll score too. But you can make Navy one-dimensional, especially if Horvath is hurt and it's an upper body and it's a shoulder. That's even better.
Yeah. I think the only way USF doesn't come out is it's turnovers, right? If they kind of get lax with the ball like they've shown, but that's kind of every game. But looking back as well, Steeg, North Texas also had 9 drives against, so they had 9 possessions against Navy as well. Navy ends up out gaining North Texas in that game, or out rushing them, and then yards per play out gaining them, but they turned the ball over. So
Navy has forced 1 turnover a game in 9 games, or 10 turnovers in 9 games.
Yeah, they're not. They're kind of really low. They don't force a lot. They don't give away a lot. So it's if you can like play aggressive, like you're saying, and maybe force a couple, then they could really get away from him. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how different they play. I know at times against Navy, I think, and against some of these teams like this, Golish has gone for it on 4th down more often, just because maintaining possession is so important, because you're going to be limited in how many you get. So I'd imagine you'll see him be pretty risky on 4th down decisions, or what seems risky on 4th down a little bit more, maybe more willing to go for it, just because the possessions are going to be so limited. So you gotta extend those as much as you can. So,
and the other thing with Navy is you can strangle the life out of them late. And I hope the lesson gets learned from Memphis, in that if you've got a 3-score lead in the 4th quarter, I don't care who you are. Navy can't score quickly. They don't do that. So if Navy can't score quickly, if you've got a 3-point, run the clock down. Just stay in bounds, run the clock down. Just take all that 40 seconds. Take all the 40 seconds, because if you've got a 3-score lead on Navy with 12 minutes left, you should never, ever lose the football game under no circumstances.
So it'll be, I'm sure everybody's going to get heartburn from the game watching it, but it should be one that USF wins. And then they win that one, you're feeling really good going into the final couple weeks of this season. All right, gentlemen, do you guys want to talk any basketball? USF men played George Washington over the weekend and lost a competitive game. Won tonight against Coppin State in a not competitive game. What is your takeaway from kind of the first week of basketball here? I guess on both sides. The women played a kind of a ugly game. They ended up pulling out, right?
Yeah, they ended up
looked rough there for a little bit.
Long Island by 6, 7.
The old Sharks. So Long Island Shark. So what's the takeaway from both teams from you guys? You guys have been watching basketball. What's week 1 takeaways? You can't take away a lot from the first couple games, but positives, negatives.
Full disclosure, I haven't watched the women yet, and I did watch all of Coppin State tonight, but I did not watch George Washington. George Washington game from 6 of 33 from 3, not great. Forced 21 turnovers, which is good. But not a lot of great looks, not a lot of shots that went in against a team that's borderline competitive, that should be competitive in the A-10 this year. So not too worried about that. Again, it's so early in the season. You don't want to, overvalue these games.
I think they're like a top 60-ish team in Bart Torvik, so probably similar in Ken Palm, top 70-ish.
Yeah. So yeah, they're bubble. And Chris Caputo's a good coach, despite a little back and forth between him and Harsin and some of, or not Harsin, Hodgson. I've called him Brian Harsin multiple times. But Brian Hodgson, a little back and forth with him after the game. I did see the end of the game, like the last minute, but I didn't watch most of it. Tonight against Coppin, I think that's how it's supposed to look. Can you do that against a better opponent, though, is the question. Final score tonight was 100-50. That feels good. big first half for Joseph Pinion, was making everything. 6 of 14 from 3 overall. I think he was 5 of 12 at halftime. Really made some shots. They were able to close out on the rim pretty easily against a Coppin team that didn't have a lot at the rim. Bulls finished 35 of 67 from the floor with only 9 turnovers in a game of, don't have a possessions number here, but 67 possessions, only 9 turnovers. That's a little bit better. So feeling a little bit better here. Wes, are we going with Enos or Ennis? I believe it is Enos, correct?
It is
Enos.
Enos.
Yeah, turned his ankle there late, was in the game late, drove to the basket, made it, and then flipped his ankle. Let's hope he's okay. Only thing I really had to worry about, but it's so tough against teams that are, a MEAC team that's, going to be in the 300s for sure, in terms of any kind of rating system that you put out there. Do like what I saw from Caleb Sanders as well, though. 12 points. Looks like he could be a nice piece for this team. Did not start, but played well off the bench. Might have played himself into a bit more of a starting role. And again, this team is, especially against lesser opponents, is going to try and beat people with depth. They're going to, they played 9 guys double digits tonight. And I think that is sort of the plan as to how they want to play. It's a pace and space system. It's get to the paint, draw and kick, play up and down to, protect the rim. And how they're able to do that, it's just really tough to tell. I think, the flaws were certainly exposed in the GW game, but it's so early. You got so much time to correct it. And let me tell you, as somebody who's wagering decent amounts of money on college basketball across the country right now, a couple things to notice is that offenses are definitely more efficient. Efficiency is up across the board. Overs are definitely beating unders early in the season. It seems like we're getting a lot of foul calls, especially in perimeter things that normally, like there were some foul calls tonight where I'm like, come on, guys, it's a 40-point game. Let it go.
Is that like a point of emphasis that'll kind of ease out?
I hope so. College basketball has gotten a little too physical at times, especially in league play. So maybe they're just trying to get ahead of it this year, but it seems like the refs are not really letting them play. And even in some spots where I'm like, come on, let's, I'm normally like below the whistle, as when there's freedom of movement involved, but there were a couple finger taps on wrists tonight that got called. I'm like, come on, guys. It seems to be that way across the country, but offensive efficiency is up. So the ability to close out on 3-point shooters and protect the rim, it's basically what everybody in college basketball wants to do nowadays. And how well you're able to do that will determine your level of success. The thing I see from USF defensively is I don't think they're really necessarily on a string yet. They defend, they get to the spot, but it's not like they're working in coordination with each other. Like the 2 passes away helper sometimes gets there a little late. He's like, oh, I now recognize that I need to go there because the pass got made. Okay, well then I need to help 2 away. But they're not, the anticipation level isn't really there yet. Some of the help from the block is a little late. It's, I'm guarding my guy. Oh, shoot, here comes the driver. I'm a step late, getting over and helping. I think that'll get cleaned up though. It's so early in the season. These kids, they practice together, but until you get on the floor and you play somebody when it matters, you don't really know. And the coaches don't really know how it's all going to fit together. And college basketball nowadays is so much about how you're able to make your pieces mesh. Get the talent in the door, sure, but then they got to fit. And I think we saw even with good teams, like UConn last year had great talent, but it just didn't fit. And sometimes, you're the 2-time defending national champion. You wouldn't think that'd be a problem. You'd just be able to get good players. They got to piece it together. I went to the Florida game in Vegas against Arizona. And I think Florida is the more talented team, and Arizona won because their pieces fit better. Cola Pete's also a stud, but I just feel like they've got, they got a great guard who can get to the paint and shoot a little. They got one of the best freshmen in the country. They got 3 floor spacers who can defend, like 3-and-D guys. They fit really well. The Gators look like they might have some struggles in the backcourt, and they got an amazing front court that's incredible defending the rim. Well, how's that going to fit without a lot of great guard play? Guards that may not be able to get the ball to the forwards on the right spots. How does that all work together? So college basketball is just so different nowadays. You can't really build a roster. You can't really build a system because you just sort of get the players that you get, and then you got to figure it out. And so I'm going to hope Brian Hodgson and his staff can figure it out with this team, and that the talent's clearly there. Can they get it all to fit together?
All right, here's my question to both of you. Who do you trust more to shoot the basketball better from three as the season goes on? The men are currently shooting 28.3% from three. The women are shooting 15.6% from three. Who do you trust more?
Women.
I mean,
I don't. They were terrible from three last year.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with the women's team right now is that sample size incredibly small, especially with the fact that you brought in Katie Davidson in a battle, a few other girls that could shoot, deep, and you're still having the issues, which is it happens. We joke about it, but we are also kind of serious that we might need to sage the Yingling Center because it does not matter where these people come from, does not matter what gender they are. For some odd reason, when you enter the Yingling Center, you are cursed at your rims for at least a good bit of time as well. It's funny because the criticisms and the issues that I have been having with the women's basketball team are the same issues that I've been having with the men's basketball team. But I feel more confident that the men's team can figure it out and gel it together than I am the women's team. Not for any bad reason. It's just the way that the non-conference league is going to work for women's basketball. We might not know really a lot about this team until, about a month and a half from now. You unfortunately are about to enter just the buzzsaw heart zone of collegiate women's basketball over the next couple of weeks. And the men's team.
You think Fairfield's that good?
Oh, I said a couple of weeks here, buddy. Fairfield's good. They got a girl that can score like 32 points per game. They're the least of my worries. The rest
UCLA?
UCLA and Duke are tough.
Duke scares the shit. Duke, that Duke defense. We'll get to that later.
Right.
But like with the men at least had the easier schedule. We'll put it that way. Again, this is a Coach Jose Fernandez schedule. It's going to be tough. You got to get those chances to play those top opponents in case you can beat them. If you do beat them, it's great. If you don't, you can kind of quality loss your way into a good RPI metric. But you might not really know who the best player on this women's basketball team is until you get to conference play.
So
is the women's game played the same way the men's going in terms of shots at the rim, shots from three, no mid range, or is it still kind of?
There's some mid range.
Because that was like last year, USF took a ton of long twos, and they're doing it so far this year. They've taken more long twos than they've taken threes again. Mm-hmm. Is that just a function of the roster?
You still like the sports have merged in terms of efficiency and how look, Courtney Williams, the best long two maker in the history of the world. Still in the WNBA, she's the best long two maker at the professional level too. But those aren't necessarily shots you want to take unless you're at like a Chris Paul / Courtney Williams level of efficiency. But like the thing that scares me about this men's team, tonight watching them, they're playing there's 365 Division I teams this year. Coppin went in as the 364th in KenPom. So next to dead last and Mississippi Valley State, who I don't think has full scholarships, is the dead last team. And we were 12 of 38 from three tonight with some wide open looks and some shots that probably should have been more efficient. So that, this roster, you cannot win in college basketball in 2025 unless you can make some threes. And I'm a little worried about that. Though the women's team, though I haven't gotten a good look. I've just only looked at box scores, so I can't. But their history says that they will figure it out and they will find a way to make some shots. But the men's team, this level of efficiency, especially from the way that they play, you got to make there was some good ball reversal tonight. There was some good ball movement. They got some wide open looks. Few of them went down, but not enough of them went down. And there were some forces too, quite frankly. Hodgson said Harson. I'm going to say that until it stuck in my head. I watched too much Auburn football. Hodgson said at halftime in the interview that he's like, I forget the term he used, but it was like we got a little loose, or we got a little with some of our shots at the end of the first half, they took a couple shots that were just out of system, out of rhythm, which you really don't want to be doing against the 364th best team in college basketball. So plenty of time to figure it out. Not worried yet, but they got to find a way to make some shots. I think they will protect the rim pretty well, but they gotta find a way to make some threes.
All right. Any final comments on basketball thus far? Anything that surprised you or anything you're looking forward to?
No, I mean, like, the fun thing is both these teams are still fun. I think Collin and I collectively are probably the biggest critics of like USF basketball end of discussion, whether it's women's or men's. Go to these games, man. Like that's the thing. Like we'll complain about things. We'll complain about 3-point shooting and efficiency ratings and yada 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 yada. Both these products that these men and women are going to be producing this season are going to be good. A lot of these games are going to be fun. A lot of these games are going to be great promotions. Go to these games. These two programs deserve more support than at times they get. Of course, sometimes it's hard to get out there on like a Tuesday night against Coppin State, against a Long Island or anything like that. Go to the North Texas games. Go to the UTSA games because they're going to kill them. There are plenty of opportunities to go to these basketball games. Go to them. That's the overall message. We'll talk about metrics and we'll deep dive into the NCAA tournaments later. Go to the games, man. They're fun.
Yeah, no, college basketball is always fun. It's great. And also go to the volleyball tournament. We still got a home game, right?
I mean, we're not going to talk about the stretch they're in right now, but yeah, we got a home game left.
Yeah, tough losses at Wichita and UAB. That's bad news. Good news is they're still the 2 seed right now. So not too worried about it. Top 2 seeds do get the bye in the tournament. We like having the bye. It's a 16 tournament. So unless they changed it, last year it was a 16 tournament. I'm assuming I haven't looked. I assume it's still a 16 tournament. So if that's the case, then we're going to host that tournament, and I am super excited about it. Not thrilled with how they played down the stretch, and the loss tonight to an FAU team at Boca. Not great. But coming back, they get UTSA, and if they win that one, they're still the 2 seed. So definitely not playing their best volleyball right now. But man, it would be nice to see this team get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 23 years.
There you go. Go watch some basketball. Go watch some volleyball. Don't have a heart attack during the Navy game this weekend. Those are your assignments. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. And if you want more coverage, you can check us out on patreon.com/theBaeExaminer. We have a Ponderosa section of our Discord. It functions as a message board. There's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of good conversation. And then we also have extra podcasts every week with in-depth breakdowns, in-depth previews of the football games. And the film room is there first, 24 hours earlier than you could get it on YouTube. So thank you guys for listening. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.